You know, you just got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and say, okay, I'm not laying down anymore. I'm just not giving, I'm just so over being exhausted with my own BS. You know, I mean, and that's where I make big changes, where I'm just like, I'm over me saying this stuff to the point where now it's either do it or shut up. And this is Nathan Marco. What is going on today, guys? What I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to give you a little recap of like the top three things, top three takeaways of the last 20, probably 2 years of my adult life. Now, when I say adult life, I'm talking like 18 and up. When I was actually moved out when I was 17, I graduated, for those of you who don't know, I graduated school about a year and a half early. The secret behind that was school. See, I was always trying to see outside the bubble. And just a quick recap on how I did it. School kept telling me I couldn't graduate early. I had good enough grades to graduate a little bit early. I think it was like a semester early or a few months early, maybe a half a year early. But I wanted to get out my junior year. I already was looking into starting an eBay store. Even the eBay stores didn't exist back then, but I wanted like my own account where I could sell. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to sell shoes and break down like RC cars, and that's what I was into at the time. And I saw a big pocket in the market for it, which ended up being extremely well. I did really well on it. But I wanted to get out and start doing that. I was already making some side money doing that, and I wanted to kind of expand that and go all the way in. And school wasn't for me. I remember even talking to one of my teachers, matter of fact, and my math teacher, Mr. Francis, I'll never forget him. And I told him, I said, look, Mr. Francis, you know, because I think we were doing calculus at the time, and I'm like, why? I really excelled at math. I love math a lot. Not that I liked it, I think it was just easy for me. I said, why am I even in this class? Like, I don't understand why I'm learning things I don't ever plan on using. Like, I've talked to my dad about some of the things I'm using and talked to other adults that are successful, and everyone keeps telling me this is a waste of my time. What am I in here for? He's like, well, Nathan, we're prepping you for college. I said, well, newsflash, Mr. Francis, I ain't going. So now what am I here for? Well, I guess just the state requires it. That's another whole zombie mode, go with the motion because you're told to. You got to break free from that mentality. But anyways, I knew back then that I was different and that I wanted more. I didn't know what, but I know I wasn't made for the run of the mill, factory worker that the school that the school system and life was like kind of built to produce. So what I did was went to my counselor, asked if there's a way that I can get out. He said, nope, your grades are good enough. You'll graduate maybe a half year early with all your credits. I said, is there any other way? He said, no. And I just went home and started doing research. Now, this is prior to YouTube, prior to all that stuff. And I don't even think Google's around yet. If it was, I didn't know about it. I think Yahoo is what I was using. And the dial-up, the old doo-doo-doo. That's how you got the internet. And nobody could use the phone. And I just did research on it, and I found out there's a school called, I think it was called School of Tomorrow. This is 22 years ago, guys, maybe 23 years ago, so probably a little rusty. But looked into that, and it was the only, what high school likes to do is they only allow certain homeschools to allow their credits to transfer over. So they almost make it even difficult to get out of their school with enough credits, with all your credits you've earned, and graduate. So I ended up going through a couple different schools, and the one I landed on, I think, was called School of Tomorrow. I don't even know if they're around anymore, or I could be even butchering the name, quite honest with you. But anyways, what I did was I did that, brought it to the counselor. They had to accept it once I seen that it met all the criteria. And I literally, you didn't have to have a teacher. Your parent is who got the answer guide, and they would review. And I just literally sat down and did all my work in like 2 weeks. I just blasted because some of the schools, you can only do so much, and they lock you out of the program, and you can't go any further. With mine, they were tangible booklets back then, so I could go as far as I wanted. And I just blasted through everything my entire year and a half of school. So it was like maybe a quarter of the way through my junior year, and I graduated. So maybe halfway, not even quite halfway. So I graduated. So I don't know where I was going with that story, but that was, I was just expanding on. So out of my adult life, I graduated early. That's what I was just explaining how I did it so early. I wasn't like a savant or anything, but I was in life, just not in like, I wasn't a savant. Like I couldn't just sit there and you tell me weird numbers and I can get them. But I was good in life. I seen there was other openings, and I was always trying to find a shortcut or a different way to challenge what I was being told, just to make sure that it was accurate and right. And I think you should always do that in life. But the top three takeaways out of my adult life that I could give, if I had a child and I had one moment to sit with them, obviously, you know, it'd be in depth. It wouldn't be this quick as what I'm going to give this to you because we're already 4.5 minutes in. That was already fast. But what I would say is one of them would be um, being very decisive on what I want to do. Not going through life, just letting life happen to me. And we just talked about that yesterday. Being very focused on what I want to do and living a life of intent. Knowing this is where I want to be, even if I'm not sure about my goals, knowing where I want to be, and then sitting down. I don't even want to call them goals. Maybe more, because goals to me feel like an ending. Like if my goal is a Lamborghini and that's my only goal, and then I get that, I'd almost have to set a second goal, or a third, and then a fifth, and then a 10th. I think goals seem to have an ending to it. I might relax if I have that. So I think more of a target would be pretty good. A target is just a next step, right? A goal might just be the end. Like when the goal is to win the game. Once you win the game, what do you do next? You just got to play another game. I don't. For some reason in my mind, I don't. The word goal probably doesn't resonate really well with me. Not as good as targets do. So. Or objectives. So my objective or targets would be very clear, and I would spend a majority of my time trying to plan out ways to achieve it. Spending way more time around people that have a lot of knowledge, and sometimes that equates equal to wealth. Almost majority of the time it does. So I would probably spend more of my time in my late teens, early 20s, getting closer to people that have money. Not faking my way to them and not saying I have money so I'll be around them. Willing to do a service or whatever I had to do to be around that person. I'd be a pilot so I could fly private for these people. I would wash their cars at their house. Whatever service I could give just to rub shoulders with them, to show them my work ethic, and then I was willing to do whatever it takes, and maybe get a little bit from each person and have a bunch of mentors that have massive value early in life. I think that would have expedited my process severely. So that would be number one, just being very clear in my goals and our goals. I don't like that word. My I guess targets and just be living it with mass intent, not just floating through my 20s and then starting to wake up in my 30s. That would have been very. If I could do it again, I'd have been. And I was, to be clear, way more focused than everybody else around me. And I still wasn't even close to focus enough because I didn't have nobody else pushing me saying, hey, look, Nathan, you need to do this. Like, what are you doing? You're wasting too much time. Because to me, I was beating. That's why you never use someone else that's close to you or around you as a measuring tool. Because if you just use them as a measuring tool, you'll just get right past them and feel like you've won. And your potential could be like 10 times what that person could do. So you never do that. And that's what I ended up doing, was just beating out everybody else, and that was good enough. And that's terrible. To live life where it's good enough, just so dumb. I don't know why I thought that way. So that's one. Discipline. Teaching myself to do things when I say it. And that's strictly to myself. Teaching myself massive discipline. That would be the number two thing. So, and what I mean by that is when I say this is what I'm going to do, like stopping my brain from creating obstacles in my way, from stopping me from doing it. People create all, like I just heard a guy tell me a story, it was today or yesterday, about how he wants to move up in his career, or no, he wants to quit his job. He was actually working on the side already, I think detailing cars, and he was making more detailing cars, he is right now, than at his normal job. And what he needs to do is quit his job so he can focus even more on detailing cars and double down on what he's making and really excel in what he wants to do. But he's scared. So what he says is, well, I got a payment on my car, and once that's paid off in the next couple of years, I'm going to finally quit. And all that is that's you giving yourself a smokescreen. That's you negotiating with where you want to be in life because you're scared. And I totally understand that. It's okay to be scared. It really is. Matter of fact, it's a good feeling. When you're scared, that means you're freaking close to doing the right thing. That means you're in the sight of what you're supposed to be doing. Now, I'm not saying like I'd like to rob a bank, but I'm too scared to. I'm not saying break the law. But when you're trying to do something new and it's way against everything you've been taught, but you just feel like everything's kind of pushing you that way, you need to sever some things really severely that are going to, in your mind, the old mind you're connected to, feels like it's going to hurt you. Feels like it's going to actually take you backwards. But it's okay. If I would rather, just to be clear so you guys understand my position on this, I would rather quit where I'm at a higher paying job, knowing that after doing the math, forwards, backwards, in every different direction, knowing that I can win doing this new thing I want to do, something I want to do, and for me, and there's massive growth. I can understand, and I tell myself now as an adult, I know that maybe month 1, 2 through 9, I may not meet or exceed my old budget of what I had here before. But I know that if I stay in this, that this 9, 10 by month 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, I'm going to start dead even it. And now it's on my terms. And then once I start dead even it, then it's 16, 17, 18, I'm surpassing my old me. Now I could do this earlier, but if I work the math, and even in the worst case scenario, I end up beating this old version of me, I just need to sever this and dive in. And then that is scary. That's scary because we're not brought up to take massive risks. We're brought up to do what's textbook right, and that's it. We're not taught to manage our money, to take, financial risks, but educated ones. We're not taught to think outside the box and challenge what society tells us. We're not taught that. We're taught to sit in line. So when you get a new person or someone that's kind of different from the rest, the top 1% or 0.01%, you're talking about a very minute group. I mean, out of 1,000 people, it's probably 50, maybe 30 that really, and what they do is once you step back and you challenge what you've always been told, even a little bit, and start to see, hey, there might be a different way to do this. And then you end up meeting someone that actually does it that new way and actually succeeds at it. And you're like, okay, maybe it's an anomaly. But you just stay curious and you keep asking. Then you meet his friend that does it too. Totally different business, but something totally different, and challenges what you've been told and does it different and wins. And you're like, okay, maybe there's something to this. Once you get outside, once you let go of what you're used to and engage in those fears, because that's what you need to do. You need to walk into them. You need to walk towards what that stuff is. The path of the most resistance is the path to success. It's always going to be that way. It's not like you get 10 pass and, man, I chose the hard one. You might choose this. The one staying where you're at is the stupid one, not the hard one. It's stupid and it's hard. It's not even hard. It's just stupid. It's hard because you're too stupid to leave it. When you stay in it. Like I was too stupid to leave that kind of life sometimes. Like I was too stupid to let go because I was too scared. Like I don't mean stupid like you're dumb, just stupid like uneducated. You're not told, you don't have nobody around you. What's another word for that? Like naive? Yeah. You're too naive to know, because stupid just sounds rough to me. Even though I'm a very coarse person. I don't like to say that because I don't think people are stupid. I just don't think they know any better. And that's just a quicker version of me to say that. But just you're too naive to know what's outside of that. So when you're told something, it's like it challenges everything you've ever heard. Instantly, your response is to push back. And like, no, you're dumb. There's no, how can you possibly do that? And then what ends up happening is you create hatred for other people. Even if you're a good person, you'll find yourself doing this. I used to do this. I had to correct this about me. I'd find someone doing extra good that did different than everybody else, and I'm like, nah, he's got to be doing drugs or selling dope or hustling people or stealing, or I couldn't figure it out. Even though I wanted to be outside the bubble, since I couldn't figure it out, I felt like he had to be like kind of snaking someone or something. So you need to stop that, because that's going to keep you from asking him or her how they're doing it. And you just set your ego aside and say, okay, dude, I can't help but notice all the flash. I can't help but notice you have nice stuff. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing to get it? Please just give me some sort of insight. And he might tell you something that's like, oh, well, that's not that big of a deal. Or he might tell you something that's like revolutionary. But whatever it is, you need to start setting that aside and you want to get to his level and succeed past his level. But in order to get to his level, you got to talk to someone that's been where he's at. And if you're mad at him for being there, you're going to be mad at everybody for being there. So you need to get rid of that and just say, okay, you're beating me. You did something smarter than I did. What'd you know I didn't? And then he'll tell you, and you'll end up finding out he was just as unknowledgeable as you were at one point and had to figure it out. So those people are super important. So that would be, teaching yourself discipline, focusing on what you're doing, super massive things. Discipline, when you say to do something, you do it. I don't care how hard it is. I don't care how scary it is. If you are confident in you, and if you're not, don't be like, well, I'm not confident enough. Don't just say it. Do something about it. So maybe start taking smaller risks and teaching yourself that you're not going to let you down. I don't know if it's Maybe you want to epoxy a table. Like this is all epoxy. Maybe you want to epoxy a table. I had this custom made for me. If you want to epoxy a table, go learn how to epoxy. Start with something small. Nah, I'll frick it up. Who cares? Do it. I don't know if I have the money to kind of like screw it up. So there's a good test. Go spend a little bit that you can't afford. Don't buy a big amount to do a table that's going to cost you $3,000, but do maybe a little end table or something small. And then now it's like $50. And if you're down to your last 50 and it's important, you'll make sure you don't F that 50 up. And you'll learn. And you'll get excited once you do it. You'll say, okay, if I did this again, I know I'd do it better. And you'll start teaching yourself that, hey man, at the other side of fear is everything I want. So it is important that when I feel scared, that I walk into it. I don't walk away, I walk towards it and figure it out. I had to get a man lift, because I got to give you the third key here in a second. I had to get a man lift, a big boom, thing that goes up in the air with a bucket on the end. And I got one because I have a ton of property here at this office. And I needed to get a lift to bring me up there to trim some trees. I have a beautiful yard, absolutely gorgeous yard. So blessed to have this yard. And I was up there trimming some trees, or rather I had my wife do it too with me. But I went up about 30 feet and I could feel the anxiety like telling me, nope, take yourself back down. And I had all the controls in front of me in the bucket. And I was a hot shot, so I went up there with no harness because I'm a hot shot. And, because I don't need one, right? Because I'm a real man. And I got up there and I was like, this feels way uncomfortable. Now I'm talking to my wife, she's on the ground. And the first thing I thought is, I need to go back down. That's what my instincts tell me. But my brain is already taught better. I've already disciplined myself to not listen to my instincts. So my instincts say, go back down. The anxiety feels too much. My brain says, you're stupid. Let's go up. Because I need to teach myself that my instincts don't control me. My internal feelings don't rule what I do. I'm smarter than that now. So I'm like, nope, up we go. And I extended myself and that bucket shook. And I was like, oh my God. And I pushed that thing out as far as it would go. And then I let go of the rail, which you're in a bucket, and I just sat there for a while. And Kristen's like, my wife, she said, you want me to go up there and trim it for you? Because she has absolutely no fear of anything. I don't think she just fears the accident. And I'm old enough to know what happens when you fall. I don't think she has that part in her brain. But I was like, you know what? No, honey, I'm going to just stay up here. I'm going to teach myself that this is okay. Because that's what I do. I challenge me and I get through those barriers. Because on the other side of those, guys and girls, is everything you want. That path that is hard to walk down, that you don't want to walk down, that you want to avoid, is the one that's going to give you everything you need. So just tell yourself, hey, look, I'm going to go down this path, and it is going to be a pile of bullshit. I already know it's going to hurt. It's going to be a bunch of mouth punches right in my face. But I can't wait for it, because I know that after I get punched in the face, I'm getting a reward every time I get punched in the mouth. Every time I'm going to learn something, I'm going to go further and go better and know more. So just give me as many punches. If I'm going to take an ass whooping, let's just do it all right now. I don't want to wait. We're all going to get whoopings, right, throughout our life and get taught lessons. I don't want to wait and just be in a reactive lifestyle. When it just happens to me, I react to it. I want a life of intent. I'm going to go out there and say, look, you're the guy that's going to kick my ass my whole life? All right, let's get all 20 of them out right now. If we're going to do it and it's going to hurt and it's going to suck and I'm not going to like it, let's just get it out of the way. I don't want to wait and have anxiety and worry when it's coming. Just beat the hell out of me now and get this over with like a Band-Aid. I'll just get that ass whooping done. Because I want to learn. I want to get to the next level, man. I'm in a hurry to get there. I'm in a crisis to grow. I'm not in a midlife crisis because I'm scared of where I'm staying. I'm in a midlife crisis to grow. Like I'm in a hurry. Let's go, Bo. So anyways, the third thing that I would give you in knowledge over the last 22 years that I could probably give you for insight outside of 1 and 2 is being clear on what your stuff is, living with intent, taking massive risks and teaching yourself discipline, 2 super big things. And number 3 is to reach out to the end. I actually heard this line the other day and it resonated with me. Reach out to the end of the olive branch. Like a lot of your fruits in life are going to be at the farthest end of the tree branch. And the farthest end of the tree, that's the sweetest, best fruit that life has to offer. Now, what I mean by that is the more rotten fruits and the fruits that have bugs in them and the fruits that you can eat them, and they're smaller, not as scrumptious, I guess you could say, not as luscious. They're little, but they're close to the tree, right? They're not all out to the ends. But to get out to the end, what does the branch do? The branch gets smaller as it gets out there. It gets more brittle, weaker, thinner. It takes a lot more strategy, a lot more certainty, a lot more thought to get out there to that end of that branch. You have to really strategize how to get that thing. You can't just dive out there. A branch will snap your hit the ground. You're gonna. So, but to not reach for it is to say that I don't even want success at all. So you want to make sure that know that fruit's there, and you can see it. Everyone can see that the opportunity is there. They can see the best fruit is there. But most people are just willing to live life on just good enough. And I don't want to live on good enough. I think that my family and who's closest to me deserves better than that. I'll even sacrifice what I get to make sure that they get better than good enough. There's something inside of me that should be inside of you too that's fulfilling about helping someone else, about being able to be the rock, the one. Every family has a one that changes everything. Be the one. Be the one. Break the cycle. Be the one that just sees it differently and says, okay, today, I'm deciding I'm making the rules. And once you get outside that bubble, like I talked earlier about challenging life and how things are taught to you, once you see outside of it, you can never see the inside ever again. Just so you know. Never. You can be told what it's like to be in there. You can be reminded what it was at one point to live in that bubble, because that's where most of society lives. But you'll never, ever, ever know what it's like to actually understand inside that bubble anymore. You'll almost think that people are trapped with some sort of like mind control. So what I'm telling you is get outside of what you're comfortable with. Challenge yourself. Challenge what you're being told. Everything. I mean, everything. Don't argue. Hear the information. Go fact check it. Find out. If something seems a little suspicious, you have a right to think that. If it seems just a little too good to be true or it's a little too easy, fact check it and go find out. Challenge it. And then you'll find out what it's like to be outside the bubble. Then once you get outside, it's weird to look inside and see everybody else inside there. And that's why I have this, so I can help you guys get out here with me, because there's not many of us out here, and I would love to have more of you guys wake up. And that's why this is called The Awakening. So that's 1, 2, 3. Get focused, teach yourself discipline, and reach out and get that sweet fruit. All right, guys, I will talk to you tomorrow. Thank you. This is Nathan Marco for The Awakening.